hello, just introduce yourself in the comment section and then tell us where you're joining us from so I can know everyone can hear me. Let's just give some time for others to join before we kick off. Okay, so I think we already have some number of people on the call. So I think we'll just proceed and get into business. Um, so we'll be having our first speaker start his talk. Victor Churchill Akpan. He's a product designer with FlexiServe. I've known him for quite a while, and I can't wait to hear what he has for us today. So, Churchill, over to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Right.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing having a nice time this evening. All right. I'll be sharing my screen right now So, like Daniel has already said, I'm a product designer, um, working with FlexiSurf, right? I've been designing for quite a while right now. First of all, I started my career from as a web developer, right? Later progressed into graphic design and then picked up a product design career, right? So today we'll be talking about UI animations for beginners. So I'll be sharing my screen right now. Let me know when you can see my screen. Hello, please let me know when you can see my screen.
Your screen.
All right.
Yes, I can see your screen.
All right. So, like I said, welcome everyone. I'll be sharing with us getting started with UI animations. So, basically, I'll be sharing my own part of experience so far with dealing with UI animations, and then how you could incorporate this as part of your projects, works, and everything you do, right? As far as product design is concerned, right? I'll be sharing how you could maybe utilize most of uh, Figma's prototyping components, like the interactive component, right? Smart animate, right? To actually create a good animation for your designs, right? So, like I said, my name is Victor Churchill. I'm a user experience designer. I've been designing for more than 5 years right now. I started out as a web developer. I later progressed into graphic design. Then later I picked up product design to with a bit to actually solve more problems. To get more involved in solving user problems. That led me into picking up this skill, right? So let's get right into the topic, right? So getting started with UI animations. So first of all, this session will kind of be interactive. So maybe I'll be asking questions, and then maybe if you could drop comments, in the chat section just to for me to be aware that okay we are following, right? So when we just hear animation, just what comes to mind, right? What comes to mind? What do we just what do we think of when we hear animations? So if you have maybe a suggestion, you can just drop it on the chat. So basically, designing processes, right, that is used by humans, right, over time has developed and right. So with time, we've found out that micro interactions and animations go a long way to providing a lot more retention and a lot more guidance for users when interacting with the system or interacting with the product, right? So when we create animations like this, it's in most cases when maybe a user fails in achieving a task on a system, it eases a kind of the kind of frustration they kind of feel on that kind of process, right? So, but UI animation is generally important, right, in creating interactive systems, creating systems that users are going to use. It helps us, to kind of develop um, a system that helps to sync with the real life scenario. So, a kind of action one would have taken in real life kind of is simulated on a product, right? So this content will actually be going through this process we're going through understanding UI animations, why UI animations, and then we'll categorize them and conclude on it. And then I'll also be showing practical steps, how to create most of these animations by yourself, right? So let's just go right in. So understanding UI animations. So like I said initially, UI animations help implement motion in order to enhance the overall presentation and interactivity of the product. So with UI animations, you users get to interact with the product more. They get to be more involved. It's kind of they get to be more immersed with the system, right? It creates a better retention when used on a system, right? So to understand UI animations more, there are two forms of animations on systems, right? And they are functional and decorative. So most of these functional animations is to to guide the user to achieve a task, right? So if you are moving from point A to point B, it helps you to actually um, get to achieve that. Whereas most decorative animation is to help tell a story, right? In branding and all of that. But maybe as we go deep, we'll get to just find out most of them, right? So why UI animations? So why exactly UI animations? So basically, first it guides the user through a product. As I mentioned initially. So if you are creating a product that the user will go from point A to point B or from point A to point C. Animation has a way of creating a kind of user retention, right? Making the process of using the product more interactive, more interesting, more enjoyable. So also it creates an immersive and enjoyable experience. It can be used to draw users' attention to an important CTA call to action, right? Then we can also use most of these UI animations, to communicate to users, even without using text, right? So, for example, um, yeah, this UI animation here, um, showing the why. This is a feedback, right? Where someone is trying to enter, what's it called, information and an input box, enter probably card details, right? And then once a user makes a mistake, right, or does not fill the correct information or leaves the input field empty, the fields, the model just shakes, just to call you, give you a feedback that okay, you've not actually entered the right information, you've not entered the right details, right? So in this other one, which is maybe directing the attention of the user, right? So most of us have used what's this product called, code pen, right? Maybe to create a bit of interaction, for me, for devs and all of that, right? So you get to see this save icon when probably you've done a work, you've done your written your code to some extent and you've not saved. You get to see this icon pop, right? For you to make sure you save so that um, you will not lose your progress on the system, right? Or you will not lose the code you've already entered on the system, right? So this kind of calls your attention for you to know, okay, you shouldn't forget something like this. Make sure you save, right? And this kind of gives you feedback that you've not entered the right information. So you see that animation help to actually give feedback and then direct attention, actually guide the user to use the system and make it more interactive. So if I'm a user using this system, right, I will kind of, when I get this kind of shaky feedback, I will understand that okay, something is missing, and then with the color guide and all of that, I can know okay, this is what I need to put. I need to supply my information before I can proceed. Right? In this case, um, your attention is directed to this place that I need to save before I can before moving forward, or maybe I can lose my file in the process. Or if I'm working on this document, right, I can save and then progress to what I'm doing. Right? So moving forward, categorizing most of these UI animations. So UI animations is has different ways. A lot of designers and um, a lot of motion interaction designers has have different ways of categorizing or different types of categorizing animation or interactions on systems. But the most basic categories are micro interactions, loading and progress, navigations, state changes, and all of that, right? So I will be going down and be going just to actually evaluate the different forms of animations, micro interactions, loading and progress, navigation, states, and changes, right? So so far, if you follow up to this moment, can you just drop a comment? That all right. So let's go deep to micro interactions. All right. So what are micro interactions? So micro interaction are simply interactions on a system that is used to engage the user, right? It's used to engage the user and give feedback to the user of to what action you've taken, the feedback you can get, and then and the condition which that interaction has taken place, right? So micro interaction basically has different stages: the trigger, the condition, the feedback, the mode, right? Like the interaction we are seeing right now, we see where a user makes a click and then it loads on a system, all right, and then you get a message, and then after some time the system loads again, right, and then um, it's after the loading you get a message, right? So it happens. Action takes place from when first when you trigger, probably when you're on a click of a button, right? Or maybe a condition, probably you enter a page and then you hit a button or maybe click on search or something. And then it happens maybe when you want to get feedback and all of that, right? Maybe here it shows you a loader kinda that gives you interaction and feedback to let you know that okay, something is happening. So these are forms of animation that gives the user feedback. It kind of creates better retention. So if I was using a system, right, I'm using an application or a website, right, and then I come across something like this and the system is still loading, trying to engage and seeing something like this will, make me open to okay, waiting to, see, get the feedback, right? So like some kind of system whereby a user will not know okay what's going on or what's happening can actually put some off, right? Or you may be increasing a maybe bounce rate on a particular system, right? Another form of UI animation is loading and progress. So I know that probably we've used systems where um, we maybe will click a button to download, and then a progression shows what percentage or how far download progress, right? Or maybe you are registering on a system, maybe a system that involves a lot of forms and then or a lot of steps, and the system tells you okay what step you are at the time, right? Or maybe what steps you are left with before you complete your journey on the system, right? So this loading and process basically it shows the user how the system is working, right? It's kind of shows you a percentage of percentage. It shows you a percentage indicator of how of your progress level, right? And then these loading UI animations are critical because users might think that the product or website might have stopped working if maybe it's not there. Imagine if I'm on a system and then I click download, and then after then probably I'm downloading a file of maybe 200 megabytes, right? And my network might not get to download that very fast, right? And then after I click download and I'm waiting and I don't get any feedback and there's no progress, or maybe I just get something uh, downloading, right? So I actually do not know the progress of my file at that moment. But animations like this or interactions like this help tell the user, okay, it helps build the patience level, right? And then okay, you can wait for some time. Okay, um this your item will finish in so time, right? It helps engage the user more on the system. So in this case, you see this progress level or stepped process where it gets to show the user, okay, from here it shows you a normal box, right? At this step it shows you how your gift is being packed, right? And then the process to when your gift is being sent, right? It subtly engages the user. It makes the user interact with the system more and give this user a better feedback. All right. It maybe engages the user to an extent that okay, the user will be like, let me just see to it and finish the user journey of a particular process and achieve my task, right? Another form of another category of animation is navigation, right? So you've walked through systems like this whereby you click on the menu. It's actually, you see navigations like this, right? So navigations like this help to tell you, okay, it helps the user navigate through an interface, right? To tell you where you are at the moment, right? And then where you're navigating to, right? Designers use this animation to actually guide the user to tell you, okay, you are sliding to the left, you are sliding to the right. In this particular case, we see a kind of an automated slider, right? So whereby I know a lot of us have visited a website whereby when we scroll to the bottom of the page, you will see this button like scroll to top, and by the time you click the button, it creates a kind of a smooth scroller effect and gets you to the top, right? Most of these effects gets to engage the user in using the system, right? And then also you see here where you have a sticky menu, whereas as you're scrolling the system, it gets to tell you where you are at a particular moment on the system. So you see that this interaction helps to engage the user, to keep the user in focus on where you are. So this kind of helps to enforce one of the usability heuristics to let the user know, okay, where you are at the moment, right? While engaging a system. So it helps the user in navigating the system. It guides the user. It improves the user engagement on the system while navigating. Another form of this is state changes. When we click a button, what happens, right? Like you initially saw on macro interactions, but in this case, when a user hovers on the button, um, you should tell the user, okay, something has happened, okay, this is clickable, right? Or there's an action that can take place here. When a user clicks on that button, what happens? So you see it here where it shows a kind of a comparison, right? Between two different systems, right? So you hover on a system, it shows, it tells you, okay, you are hovering on the system. Then you click, probably you click on the system is loading. It tells you, okay, it's loading, and then it gives you the feedback. As compared to the other process whereby you just click and then you wait without feedback or any notice of what's happening on the system, right? So yeah, in conclusion, right, UI animations play key essential roles in guiding users through a product experience. Great great product design uses UI animations to communicate with users, to make digital product more straightforward and enjoyable to use, right? So before I round up, right, I'll just maybe go through some of the basic experiences or basic animations we have on the system, and then how we can create them, and then probably I can then hand over to Kingston, and maybe the second to me, right? And then maybe we can ask questions later. So yeah, a few interactions I kind of I did before this session, right? So here is what in adding trying to add is showing maybe someone is typing, right? And here is kind of progress a loader also, right? Showing a right. Um, if we prototype this, so we'll see most of this in action, right? So you see most of these animations. Most of these animations also help in developer handoff, right? So when you're handing over to a developer, it helps to tell them, okay, this is how to, create most processes, and then it will let you it will ease you off and explaining most of your design processes or most of what how to implement some basic part of your system, right? So like this is a loader, right? Probably someone a user on a system might have clicked on something and then the system is trying to load a result, right? And then here is kind of a typing effect, right? And then this kind of a loader to show, okay, probably I clicked on something and then um, this process is complete, right? So animations like this helps, engage a user on a system. So to finalize this, I'll walk us through one of the product I worked on, and then where I involved most of these animations in the prototyping phase, and then I'll round up. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Churchill.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
All right. All right. So this is a product I worked on for a proposal product for the railway service, Nigerian railway system, uh, for a booking process. So trying to book a ticket and all of that. So, but primarily the purpose of this display is just to show you basic interaction. Animations play a role to actually communicate better to your users, right? So let me try to make this a bit large. All right. So you see, all right. So user gets to log on to the system, and then they try to sign in. It gives them the effects, right? And then they log on to the system. They try to perform an action, and then go through the menu and all of that. And then probably try to book tickets to their to a basic location. So you see how most of these sliders interactions, how or maybe a user is making a selection, a date selection, they can scroll, and then when they hover on the system, make clicks and all of that. So probably a user is booking a system, right? And then they want to make a selection for the class of, maybe they're booking a ticket and they want to select business class, executive class, and all of that. And so one experience I just want to show us here, it's if you look at this particular part of the system, when you are trying to increase the number of passengers here, you see the corresponding increase on this part of the system, right? So you can scroll through, select a part on, maybe select a seat on a coach, right? Scroll through the available coaches, right? Make a selection and all of that, and then your is shown here what your selection is, right? You could collapse and expand a particular system, right? So these are just basic, engagements to just user just navigate or engage a user on the system and help engage a user and then improve interaction, interactivity on the system. When when there's a hover on a button, it tells the user, okay, there's something happening. Then you can take an action, you can click, right, and all of that. So basically, and then you may maybe make a search, and then it can help the user guide, take a tour or something to where you want to maybe to achieve your task or achieve your user goal or journey and all of that. So basically, you see that interaction helps the user to um, achieve their user goal or user journey on a particular system. It helps them. It guides them to engage them more. And then even if when there is a failure on a particular task, it eases that frustration they will gain on the system, basically. So thank you very much, everyone. So if there's any question or maybe feedback, over to you, Kingston. Hello,
Okay, thank
Kingston.
you very much, Victor. I don't know. I think Kingston dropped off.
Oh,
I
okay.
think Kingston dropped off. So he should. I don't know if he had anything to say before I commence my own session. Can everybody hear me, please? Can everybody hear me? Please, if you can hear me, can you type it on the chats? All right, all right. Okay, so Kingston dropped off. I really don't know. So I guess I will just start um, where you stopped, Victor. Thank you
All
very
right.
much, Victor. That was a really good presentation. I mean, I enjoyed it. I myself, I learned. Oh, okay. He said he's on the call. Um, yeah. Am I supposed to go now, or you want to say something, Kingston? Oh, okay. So yeah, I will just share my screen and yes, we continue from there. Okay. Can everybody see my screen now? Please, when you can, if you can see my screen, let me know. Victor, can you see my screen, please?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Oh, all right. So yeah, so I'll just run through everything. I think Victor has said most of the stuff. So I will just rush through the theoretical aspect, and I'll focus more on the practical because I mean Victor said everything. Sorry already. So yeah, but nevertheless, I'll still have to go through my slide. Okay, so the topic is UI animation beginners, and Victor has explained almost all the things there. But before then, I would just like to say a little bit about myself. So my name is Samuel Irinyemi, and I'm a product designer. And yeah, I have an interest in the fashion industry, fintech, and I mean a whole lot more like that. I started designing as it was more of a passion. I never knew it could ever be a career. It was more of a passion when I started. And I started as a graphic designer. That was back in 2011 as a graphic designer. And so I worked my way through to, I think, 2016 before I dived into UI UX. And ever since then, this is where I am now. So probably, basically, I've had well over 9 years of experience. I mean, in total in the creative industry, but for UI UX design, I've only had 5 years of experience. So yeah, I think that is my basics. That is basically my story. And here on my screen, if you can see, let me zoom in. If you can see very well, I have my social media and portfolio here. You can check them out. Anyways, I'm not that active on Twitter, so I'm more of a LinkedIn person. So yeah, that being said, let's just, um, okay. That being said, let's just proceed. So I'm not going to read out everything I wrote here because, like I said earlier on, Victor has done justice to everything. So, like I said, UI animation or prototyping, popularly called, is just a process of adding motion to your UI elements. Just adding motion to your UI elements, motion, I mean movement to your UI element, and that enhance the product interactivity with users and all of those things. So maybe after the lecture, I will share this slide. So because of that, I won't go through everything written on it. Okay, so why UI animation? UI animation basically it adds a vital human touch to digital interface to our UI to for a better experience. And UI animation makes everything feel like okay, this is a real life thing. You get what I mean? Like this is a real life thing. It makes it as real as possible. So that is why UI animation is very, very, you know, important. And most times UI animation, it's always very subtle. It's not until you drag from, from heaven to earth, like a long animation before before your UI will look professional or the experience will be better. Please let me know if you can hear me. Can everybody hear me still?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, cool. Um, okay, so then, so basically, what we'll be talking about today is UI animation inside Figma. We have a lot of, design softwares, but basically today we are focusing on Figma. So, like I said, we won't be able to cover everything under 40 minutes. So, I will just, touch the basic ones. And yes, so okay, sorry. So for triggers, UI animation and trigger for UI animation in Figma, we have on click, hovering, dragging after delay and all of those things. So I don't know. I will just touch them one by one. On click means when a user click on a selected object, what happened? What kind of interaction happened? Hovering means when a user just place a mouse on something, what happens even before you click and all of those things. And dragging just means when a user drag a selected object in the interface, what happens? After delay, basically, I think a lot of beginners probably do not understand this after delay much. So I will just read through what I wrote here. After delay, this interaction, it happens automatically. Basically, you set a particular, amount of a particular period before the animation should start. So the animation will not start before that period. So in this kind of animation, you don't need to click or you don't need to drag or anything. You just set a time for the animation to start. Then after that time, the animation starts. Okay, so then we have ways to add. Yeah, I'm trying to rush everything because Victor has, said a lot about this. I want us to have enough time to do the practical. I mean, really get our hands dirty with the whole thing. Okay, so we have ways of adding UI animations in Figma. We have, simple prototype. When I say simple prototype, I mean every other form of prototype except the smart animate and interactive components. Yeah, we have the smart animate, which is the second one, and we have the interactive components. Also, we have another one which I don't really want to categorize it under the ways of adding UI animation, but I will just say it. That is scrolling overflow in Figma. We'll go through all of that on the practical. Okay, so we have simple animation. I already explained it. So, and moreover, I will still share this slide after. So I will not, waste our time going through them now. But basically, simple animation is the act of connecting different screens in Figma and all of those things in order to add interaction to a product. While we have smart animates is a way of connecting similar frame to get a fluid animation. So what Figma, does for us when it comes to smart animate is that Figma allow you to create the starting points and the end points and then connect them. Then Figma use its AI power to help you find the states in between the starting and the ending point. So we just see, the starting point as frame A and the start and the ending point as frame B. But when it comes to motion, we call them like keyframe. So Figma helps you create the frames in between the first and the last frame. Okay, then these are tips for smart animates. Then the interactive components, which is more like my favorite. The interactive component allows you to create, component interaction between variant components. If you are conversant with component very well on Figma, you will know variants and all of those things. So we'll touch a little bit about it, but we won't really go deep into variants and all of that, but we'll be doing the ones that requires us to do interactive components. Okay, then the advantage of interactive components is that it creates interactive elements that automatically switch between variants. You don't need to have thousands of, back in the days before interactive components, that there are some things you want to do that you will need to have like hundreds of screens before you'll be able to do it. But now you only need one screen to do everything. Okay, then the second advantage is that it sets a default interaction at a component level and remove the guesswork. You don't have to like start guessing, is this the screen I'm going to connect to this and all of that stuff. It eradicates all of those for you. And of course, it reduces amount of frame connection, like I said earlier on, for prototyping and all of those things. And then the type of animation, just like he has said earlier on, we have the interactions, we have loading and progress, we have navigation, and we have the overflow scrolling I talked about the other time. We'll look at example of each of these things if time permits us. That is why I'm trying to, go through the whole theory as fast as possible. Then the micro interaction, it's basically the most commonly used of type of UI animation, and it informs user when an action is completed, when it is unsuccessful. It guides users visually throughout a particular product. That is what the micro interaction does, and it's basically the most used type of interaction or animation, so to say. Then we have the loading and progress. It helps to keep user informed by demonstrating the process, like how long something will take for a particular thing to happen, how long will it take you from step A to step B, and all of that. Then we have the navigation animation. It guides user throughout the interface, and just like Victor showed the other time, it tells you where to click at a particular time to see so things. It tells you this is what you hover on to see this kind of thing and all of that. Okay, so can I know if you're still following me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Okay, so then we have the overflow scrolling. Like I said, the scrolling up and down on a long page content, scrolling right and left, and all of those things. I'm going to show us example of each of these things in a minute. So these are, what the overflow scrolling is all about. And we have, okay, so yeah, that is the thing. So now let's get our hands dirty a little bit with animation. But before we dive into it, I would like to show us, a few examples of what we'll be doing. Yeah, some of them we might not be able to do it because of time, of course. I think I'm really managing this time very well. Sorry, am I too fast? Please let me read the comments. I need to know if I don't want to be too fast. Am I too fast, guys? Please, can you write on the comments? I need to know if I'm too fast, if I should take things slow. Oh, someone said I'm too fast. Okay, it's okay. It's okay. So basically, I just want us to, be a little bit interactive. I know a lot of people are not connected. I mean, you can't talk, you're not connected with your speaker. I mean, with your audio rather. So, but please, let's try as much as possible to drop things on the chat here. I will switch to check, once in a while and see how things are going here. So, okay, then also Kingston, please, if you notice anybody asking any question and I'm not here, or maybe anybody saying something, you can please just notify me so that I will recap, right? Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll be doing this today. I didn't design any other thing on it. So you will see we have, when you hover, you see this one comes out, but when you take your mouse off, it goes. When you hover again, it comes out. And when you come here to click on it, right, it expands and shows the detail and all each of those things. So you can come here to hover to show, like a preview of what you want. We have Teams dashboard to show the preview, to show this, to show the, before interactive, this was done with interactive components. And of course, you can click on this to go back to the initial state. The 4 interactive components, to do something like this, we'll need at least about 50 artboards to do each of these stuffs, right? To do each of these screens and everything. But now with interactive components, you only need one screen, just one screen to do all of this. And also, we'll be doing this too for scrolling. You'll see this for um, for scrolling. We'll have this also. We'll be making this one. You know, if you let me play this again, you notice that at the beginning I do not press anything before the image disappeared. And that place, can you see that nothing was pressed, but the image zoomed in and then disappeared? That was me using after delay. And from here, I can click to transform the card. I can go back, click again to transform the file, can drag this up, and scroll again. Once again, this is overflow scrolling, and of course I can click there to bring it back and, do a lot of those things. This is navigation scrolling. You can see how everything is actually changing. Okay, so let me check the comments again before. Okay, then I will show us this one last. This is
Samuel,
yes.
can you just go on? Don't worry, I'll handle the comment section.
Okay. All right, no problem. Thank you. Okay, so for the micro interaction, I'll have some stuff here. So I'll walk us through them, then we'll create maybe 1 or 2 together, because because of time, we can't create everything, but I will walk us through what I've created here. Okay, so this is a component. Of course, you can know a component with this icon here. And of course, a component usually carries this dotted purple, is it purple or green now? Sorry, blue line around it. So this is a component. This is the master component. Why these are variants of the component. This is the master component, this is the variant, and this is the variant. So what we did here is that we created this one first, and we add the variant. So I'll just take us through how that was created, and we'll continue from there. So this is a normal artboard. You get, this is a normal artboard, an artboard without a fill, and I have this icon here, and this also the circle behind it. These are the 2 things I have here. Then, so what we want to do now for interactive components is that we want to change this into a component. We can use Control-Alt-K or Command-Alt-K, or you can just right-click and click on Create Components. Then the first thing we want to do is to add the first variant. Don't worry, I won't go through all of this with everything because of time. Is to add the first variant. In this first variant, what do we want to do? This is what we have, right? So first and foremost, I will just rotate everything so that this will form an X, right? And I'm going to change the color to black. Of course, and we'll have it this way. I'm trying to emulate what we have at the top there, simulate rather what we have at the top. Sorry. So this is the main reason. And what you want to do is that you want to make sure that both edge aligns in order to get this thing very right. Okay. So we have that. That is the first thing we need to do. And the third one, where we'll have icons. So what we want to do now is that click on the second variant and just press Command D just to duplicate to form the third variant. And this third variant, what we want to do is that we want to add these icons. We want to add these icons to this third variant. So we click on the third variant, I just copied it now. That's copy. We want to click on the third variant and then paste. We want to paste it inside. Make sure you paste it inside the component to have it this way, inside the component. That is basically what we need to do to get this running. And what we just need to do from here now is to come to our prototype. Now, this is where we want to apply the animation, is to come to prototype. If you check what we have here, from here to the second state, it says on click, and we use smart animate with 300 milliseconds. But from the second one, instead of on click, we use after delay of 1 minute, and then we navigate it to the third one for at 300 milliseconds, and from here we drag this back to the first one. We link it back to the first one by pressing click again. So let's just do that here and see our results. Okay, let me delete this. Okay, from here now, of course, you drag and link it to the second one. What do we use? We use on click action. We have a lot of action here. We use on click, and we use smart animate. And of course, we want to use 300 milliseconds. And the destination is the variant 2, which is this one here. So we can play with any of these things. For myself, I like to use ease in and out for almost everything whenever I'm using smart animate. Okay, so from here now, we want to link to the third one, or instead of using on click, we'll be using after delay. After delay can be, anything we want. It can be anything we want, but we'll be using 800 milliseconds, for it to transition from here. That means once I click this one, I don't have to click this one for this action to happen. Okay, so from here now, I want to link it back to the first one, and I want to use, on click also change to the first one, the default, and also 300 milliseconds. Do we check the duration for this? Okay, 300 milliseconds. So now that is all we have to do. So whenever we don't want to use something like this now as a micro interaction, all we just need to do is to, have our frame. Let me just use, let me use a MacBook. Have our frame. Come to the asset here. Under what page are we? That is micro interaction. Come to assets, look for micro interaction, and I guess this is it. I have a lot of components here. So now we can then play this. Now we don't need any prototype or anything again. Let's try to play this and see what it brings for us. You see, this is what we have now. When I click, it changes and this happens. I click again, it goes back to the first one. Can you see that? This happens. I click again, it goes back to the first one. Click, this happens. I click again, it goes back to the first one. So that's the same technique we'll use, to create something like this. But for this one, we have a longer stuff. So instead of recreating this, I will just show us what I've created here already. So for this one, okay, let's play it first. Let's copy this down to this place. Don't forget, this is the first one, and this is the second one. And guys, one of the advantage for that interactive component has is that you can use multiple this thing inside the same page, unlike visual interaction that you can use multiple inside a page. So for this one now, let's play interaction. Can you see? You see the way this one comes in, the icon comes in one by one, and you click again, everything goes back again. Comes in one by one, we click, everything goes back. So I'll walk us through how that was done. So like I said, the first one is usually the master component. It's usually the master component. You see the naming convention here. I wrote step 1, step 2. You can see the naming here. Step 3, step 4, till we'll have the last step. So from here now, once you've created the components, we have the first variant. So from here, we link this one and says on click, when I click this should happen in so duration, you get. And from here, I don't want to click again. I want to use after delay. So when you link this one now, instead of using on click, you use after delay. And after delay of 1 second. So that means after 1 second, this action should happen. And from here, after delay again, 1 second. After 1 second again, this action should happen like that. After 1 second, this action should happen. So you will notice that here now, we only have the settings icon. Here we have both settings icon and this. And here we have the 3 of them, both settings icon and the menu. While here again, we start removing them, remove them till we have the first thing we had here. And then from here, you link it back to the first one. So that is how we have this one. Now, because it's very fast, let me try and increase the time so that we can see, the whole thing very well. Maybe we want to increase this one to like, let's say 500. Of course, this is, you won't use 500 in real projects, but I just want to use it to show us so that it will slow down everything for us. 500 milliseconds. 500 milliseconds. About 500 milliseconds. And from here to here, let's just leave it as 300. So if we play this again now, you'll see that everything will be slower. Can you see that? And click again, will be slower, slowly disappear. But of course, you don't want to use that for a real project. I just did that just to show us how the whole thing works. So I'll just do a few steps of Control Z. Okay, so that is that. So the same thing applies to this. I think I should go to another example then. If there's still time, we can still touch on the remaining micro interactions that we have here. I mean, we have cool stuff here actually. So yeah, let's move to scroll overview because the sidebar is a little bit it's much. So I'll just do this one first. For this one, let's play this. So this is a horizontal now, scrolling of something. So, and how is this one done? This is even inbuilt inside Figma already. You don't need to like do anything extra. This one also, you can see this, swiping between cards, and also this one, scrolling content and all of those stuff. So this one, it's pretty simple. So let me bring this out. I have this frame here, And this frame, it has so many cards inside. You'll see if I expand it, can you see that all the cards I was scrolling, where is it? Okay. All the cards I was scrolling here, you can see that everything is here actually. But what did I do? First and foremost, I reduced the size of the frame to match what we have here. I mean, the size of the screen. And the next thing I did again is that I clicked on the frame itself, go to prototype, and use overflow scrolling. Overflow scrolling, I used horizontal before because we want to scroll horizontally. So we used horizontal scrolling. So that's what gave us the effect we have here to scroll horizontally. So the same thing applies to vertical scrolling. Instead of horizontal scrolling, we have vertical scrolling. Then for something like map, like where you might want to crank through both horizontal and the example here, instead of using either vertical or horizontal, you use horizontal and vertical together for something like horizontal and vertical together. What is that about? Overflow scrolling. We have this example for the last, which is this. We have this one also. What I did here, I used the micro interaction. I created each of these navigation active stage, and I linked them together. For example, you see that, this one is linked to this place, that whenever I click on this on top, this should happen. You know, whenever I click on this should happen. Whenever I click on this should happen. So with that, I just place it on the product as that I played the other time. I just placed it on the product, and whenever I click, it changes. You can see that whenever I click, it changes. So that's basically it. And yeah, for this card transition animation, what I used is that I have this card here on this page. And okay, let me touch this. For Smart Animates, your layer name needs to be the same in each of the artboard for it to work properly. You will see that what we have here on the layer panel here, I have group 8 as the name. The same card we have here, but now it's horizontal instead of vertical. The name is also group 8. So I have this here and I have it here. So Figma is just helping me to animate the difference between both of them. So Figma, with the AI, put the frame in between them. That is why we can have something like this, something like this, something like this. So, yeah. From here also, from here, this element, there's an element here that I used, linked with this frame here, and the trigger says drag. That's why you notice that when you get to this page, if I do, like click, try to click here, it will not do anything until I drag. And also, so now page, and I can also use overflow scrolling overflow here, or overflow scrolling rather here. And yeah, that is it about this example. So let's do this. I have a little bit of time. Also, I used interactive components. So I know that I want to have 4 major menu here: the dashboard, what are the names now? The dashboard, teams, messages and followers. So I know I want to have 4 here. So I have the 4 here, and I already have the states, each state for each of the 4. This is the default state, this is the state that shows the name, and this is the hover state when I hover on it. So I have it for each of them. I believe we all know how to create this. And also the logo, this is it's just a logo I formed out of nowhere, basically. So, and also the logo, I have the default state, and the second variant, that is the second state. So then on my design here, this is a little bit tricky, so please let's pay attention. On my design here, of course, I have this. This is another component. I've created this component for this component. So this is another component. In this inside here too, we want to be able to switch from this one here. Okay, let me remove these stuffs so that it won't disturb us. All right. I hope everybody can hear me. Okay, so yeah, so from here now, we have this being the default state. Okay, we have this being the default state. This is the variant 2 where this arrow comes out. This is variant 3. There was not enough time for me to start naming them, so that's why I just leave them as variant. Of course, you can name each of these things to whatsoever suits you. So yeah, this is the third till we have the 7th variant, right? So inside this one, we have the first one. You notice that here we still have the default and all of those things that I have here. Remember what we have here? We can still switch. Let me try and switch so that we can see. We can still switch from this to this. You see now that it adds the name. But of course, for this particular one, we only need the default. We don't need the extended one with the name. So same thing applies to each of these. And under here, okay, something I didn't say here. Here, on this one here, I have a rectangle below each of this symbol, and the rectangle is set to 0. If I set it to 100 now, okay, it's inside the distance. But if I set it to 100, you will see that this thing has changed. Or we only need 0 here. So that is what we need. And the same thing here. But for the last part, that same rectangle has now been extended. So, and everything will help us with our animation while we want to do it. So this is the first, this is the default state. And we have the default state also, we have this arrow there. But what I did is that I pumped the opacity to 0. You notice that if I put it back to 100, you'll have this arrow. And if I, nudge it out, we have this arrow also. But let me put it back to 0. So yeah, that is the skeleton of the first variant. So from the first variant now, we can now say everything that will be on the other variant. And also this first variant, it also has everything that this place has, like including the name, everything. It has everything in there. And that happens from here. It has everything that we have here. Everything is also here. Let me try and, okay, we have, I want to show you dashboard. See, okay. So we'll see that also here we have the dashboard. But what did I do to it here? I reduced the opacity to 0 first, and I also reduced the font size to 1 so that it will be very, very small. So it will just, so now when we want to animate, it will animate from this stage that is invisible and 0 points to this stage that has, I think 12 points. Yeah, 12 points. So that's what we did. We will see everything in action very soon. So yeah, this is the first stage. And the second stage, the difference between the first stage and the second stage is that I brought this out and increased the opacity to 0, right? So I created the third state. The third state. Now this third stage is a little bit tricky because from here, everything, is the same size from here, the size here is the same as this. So for this third one, I have all these elements. You see these elements highlighted. I have them inside this first one. And how? Let me just show you. You'll see the first group. I reduce the opacity to 0, but let's reduce it to 100 now. You'll see that what we have here is the same thing we have here. So I reduce the opacity to 0 here, and I reduce the opacity to 0. So from here now, let me reduce it back to 0. Let's go for the second one. Let's put it on 100. You see that what we have here is the same thing we have here. So we just want to transition between this and this for us to get, like I said, using Smart Animate, Figma will animate in between for us. Please, Kinsey, can you let me know when I have about 5 minutes left so that I'll know that I need to be fast, please.
Okay.
Of course. Yeah, of course. So this also has opacity of 0. If you put it on 100, you notice that what we have here is the same thing as we have here. So like I said, I'll share this file after so you can go through it yourself, dissect it and everything. So I don't expect everybody to understand it at a glance. Okay, then the last one the last one, which is this first one here. Of course, the opacity is 0 too. If you increase it to 100, you will see it here. And you'll notice that each of these things, I make sure that the height from here and here is the same. It's not this, it's just a little bit closer. This one is a little bit higher because I want it to animate from 0 opacity to 100 opacity. And at the same time, I want it to move down for in about 10 pixels. I want it to move down rather in about 10 pixels. So let's put this back to 0. Boom. Oh, sorry. Boom. Okay, so that is that. And for each of these ones, I just enable the corresponding elements. I just make it 100%, the corresponding elements here. So that is what we have. So now going into the animation itself, let's switch to prototype. So what I did is that I said from here, from this first icon, right? From this first stage to this second stage, I want a hover effect, right? I want a hover effect. So anywhere I hover on this place, it will show me this arrow, and I want to use auto animate. So you will see that from here, I have my hover while hovering. Of course, when you are working on interactive component, this place, it's always going to be changed to. You can't use any other one or else it won't work properly. So this place has to always be changed to if you want your interactive component to work very well. So, and of course, the destination is the variant 2, which is this one here. This is where it's coming from. This is the destination. So while on hovering, change to destination, I want to use Smart Animate, and it should animate in about 300 milliseconds, right? Okay, so from here also, I want that whenever I click on this thing, it should expand what I have here. It should expand everything. So that's why this, you'll see that this is click. Of course, it's still changed to the destination, it's variant 3, and smart animate, everything still remains the same, right? Everything remains the same. Um, okay, so the same thing goes on and on from here. I linked each of these things to the corresponding states. For team, for dashboard, this is the states. You see that this is where I have highlighted. For teams, this is the states. You see this is where I have highlighted. And the action is on hovering. And same thing goes to message and followers. You will notice that. And also, of course, from here, from each of these states, I want you to be able to collapse, to collapse this panel so that it can go back to the initial state. So that is basically what we have here. So now, after I've done all of these things, right? Now, if we're going to do this with the normal animation we have in Figma, that if we are not using interactive components, each of this stuff will be an artboard of their own. Each of these things will be an artboard of their own. Each of these ones an artboard of their own. Instead of we just having 7 here, we will have about nothing less than 50 artboards to do this kind of thing. So now, after you've done all the interaction here, and the advantage is that you can now use it anywhere. You can use it anywhere. So what you just need to do, right, is to, have your, let me just draw, let me just bring out, something small like this. Let me change the background. Okay, is to have this and just come to your assets here and drag the components. Now you are dragging the components here. Okay, sorry about that. My system, okay. So we just want to drag the component here and voila, that is all we need to do. So now let's check this out. Of course, this is, you see, whenever I hover on it, it brings out this. If I take my mouse off, it goes back to the initial state. Hover, it brings out this. I can then click for it to expand. So I can then now hover on each of these things, and you see that it displays correct. And you'll notice that if you want to animate, it animates from opacity 0 to 100, and it moves down for about 10 pixels. You see that? See this? See the way this works? See that? So yeah, that is basically what we have. So in conclusion, UI animation is really a vital part of anything at all we want to do when it comes to product design and all of those things. So I will encourage us that after we should study this presentation. Of course, I will give the host King's know how we'll be able to, put that for. So yes, that is basically what we have. Thank you guys. I remain your humble person, Samuel Irinyemi. All right, Kingston. Yeah.
Question. Victor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Awesome, awesome job, Sam. That was quite.
Thank you very much, Victor. Yeah.
That was really practical and quite extensive.
Yeah. So guys, if you have any questions, please just leave it in chat session. So I think we have about 10 to 20 minutes for that. So the speaker can just answer your questions. Just leave anything you feel that you want more explanation on, just leave it in the chat session, and then we just have like 10 to 15 minutes to answer your questions. And then for those of you asking for, just know that I would upload the recorded session of the event to the event page, and then I'll also share all the materials used, like the speaker slides and then the Figma files used for the event. I'll share that over. So you can always go back to watch the recording and then follow along with the Figma files so you understand. Because I know I saw some people commenting that the last part, the last example Samuel talked on, was quite extensive, so they missed some parts. But you can always go back to the video and then watch again and then go back and play around with the Figma files. Okay, so I think Samuel, you have a question. You should check the comment section. You say, how do we connect screens for each functionality on the interaction?
Okay. I'm trying to check. Oh, okay. How do we connect? Which of the interaction? I showed a lot of interactions. So which of the please Akin sorry Akolade rather, which of the interaction are you referring to, please? I need to know the exact one so that I will know what I will be, showing. Akolade, are you here? Okay, the last interaction. Yeah, like I said earlier on, sorry, Kingston, I will have to share my screen again, right, to answer his question?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, so Akolade, like I said, right, I said for the first time, this thing is really extensive. I mean, the last example. So I won't say that you might be able to grab like 100% in the first, here. But like I said, I'm going to release this thing for Kingston so he will know how to distribute it to everybody. I guess before we finish, I will send the link to Kingston so that he will be able to distribute that to everybody. Okay, so like I said, we have the first thing. This is how everything started. This is where everything started, right? Creating a component for each of the icon and different states you want each of the icon to be on. But mind you, the final state here, everything we have in the final state here, we also have it in the default state. But it's only that we have most of them redundant here. You'll notice that if you check the first state now, which is the default state, we have dashboard, the text, dashboard this, we have all of these things. If you check the second one, you'll notice that it's the same thing. Do you see? Can you see that? That it's the same thing we have inside. But the only difference is that for here, a lot of things are on zero opacity. For example, the text here now, it's on 1 pixel and 0 opacity. But the text here is 12 pixel and 100 opacity. It's just like that for everything we have here. So that is more like the beginning phase. So that is the beginning phase. So the next thing you then do again is that you create with your, okay, let me drag one of these out. With your, what is it called now? With the component you just created here and all the variant and everything, you design this. What you just do is that, of course, we don't have enough time to, do this, but we just have this. And what I'll just do is that drag each of those components one by one from the component asset here. Where do we have a man, that's really going to be okay. So we can drag our logo, put it here, you see that's the same thing we have here now. So we drag everything right from the component here, or if you can't find them, in case it's not easy to find, you can just, come over here, Control C to copy that and come to this place, paste it here and arrange it accordingly, to what you want. So you just do that for everything. You notice that the one I just copied now, also I can change the states. I can change the states for each of these things. So it's just that. So when you have the first one completed, so let's assume this is the first one that you have completed here now, you create another variant by just clicking on this one and probably just pressing Ctrl D. You can use Ctrl D. You see that this is another variant. If you don't want to use Ctrl D, of course, you can use the plus icon here to create another variant. You can see that another variant has been created too. So that is how we created each of these variants. And then we then change the state of each element under here to the corresponding state that we needed. That is, for example, this one here, it's 0%, and it's 0% here, or here, it's 100% opacity rather. Sorry, I need to use the word opacity. 0% opacity here, and here it's 100% opacity. And then what we just did is that, let me change it to 100% so that you know that it is really there. Can you see that too? And what we just did is that we moved it. So this is what we have here now. Now you see that if I play this thing now, the way I have this one outside already too, there will not be any form of can you see that even while I'm hovering, there's nothing happening? That's because the first state and the second state is the same thing. Do you get? Okay. So that is how you just do everything. And so let me just control. But now that the first state and the second state is different, you can have this thing now can now happen. So that's how you do it for every single step here. So yeah, so I hope that answered your questions. Your question rather, Akinlade, right?
Yeah. So thank you, Samuel, and thank you everyone for joining. So the good news is our next event. I think we're going to be having our next event. It's going to be a physical event. So get ready. We're going to be having awesome speakers like Victor and Samuel. I really appreciate them, man. You guys blew my mind. Like, I learned a lot from Victor. I learned a lot from Samuel. Thank you guys for joining, and see you some other time. Please try and post on social media. Tag the speakers. Tag Samuel. Tag Victor. You can tag me. Tag the community. FOF Abuja on Twitter and Instagram. At Techie Munch, I'll leave my handle also. I'll leave Samuel and Churchill's handle. And then for the resources, just go to the event page. By tomorrow, we'll have the recorded session uploaded there, and alongside all the materials used for the session by every speaker. Once again, thank you guys for coming. Take care.
All right.